Riri Williams, otherwise known as Ironheart, is one of the most hated successor characters in all of superhero comics, let alone just the MCU. That said, the reasons why she is so hated are actually quite simple, and the way to save her can most easily be found in a couple of lessons from one of the most popular segments of entertainment right now, and that is, of course, anime. Welcome back to the channel. It is I, the Black Lord Brimstone, and in this video we're going to talk about how Ironheart can still be saved by anime. And when you really look at the character of Ironheart, there's a couple of things that immediately, hit you pretty in the face pretty early on. And those kind of issues are really just how unlikable the character is. And these all come down to a couple of core details that an anime protagonist never really had. Because ultimately speaking, this character, as I said in the intro, is a successor character. She's supposed to be someone who's supposed to succeed a formerly really well-loved character known as, of course, Iron Man, Tony Stark. And as such, the way that you create her character is slightly different. When the main ideas of a successor character is to have some connection with the character that they are succeeding, namely, of this case, Iron Man. But for some reason in the MCU and even within the comics for the most part, they completely cut out that connection for the most part. They really tried to make this connection as minimal as possible, which is the exact opposite of what you want to do when you're creating a character who's supposed to succeed a different character. Let's compare this to a similar character that just came out, or rather came out quite some time ago, but as far as their story just finished recently, that's Deku from My Hero Academia. Deku within My Hero Academia really wants to be the next big hero. And who is he connected to? Who is the character he's supposed to succeed? That is All Might, the main hero of that universe, the most powerful hero of the universe, the number one hero, also known as the symbol of peace. How do they do that? Of course, slight spoilers for the start of My Hero Academia, but what happens is that the writers put him right with All Might. All Might and him meet up pretty early on in the story. Literally like the first issue or the first episode of the anime, they meet up. And of course, then All Might begins to become the mentor figure for Deku on his journey towards being the new symbol of peace. It's a very clear idea of succession that has to happen here. And in order for that succession to happen, you have to actually be, have some type of relationship with that successor, or successee, if you will. And that's the difference here with Ironheart. They did that a little bit in the comics, but focusing on the MCU version, she has no connection to Tony Stark whatsoever, literally at all, which is just a bizarre choice to make for a character like that. Why would you make her unconnected to Tony Stark at all? Only thing she's connected to him at all, I think has some money from the grant that he made in like Captain America Civil War, which allowed her to go to college. Besides that, there's really not a whole lot of things that she's connected to him. And she doesn't really like the character either. That's another part you could have done. What anime would have done if they took that same thing, or shown an anime to be more specific, they would have had her have a connection with Iron Man, even if she didn't know him. Either they would have made her actually someone who had met him before in the past, or if not, he would have at very least been someone that she admired deeply and thus was trying to emulate in some way, shape, or form. This was a classic way of doing things, and basically everything, even before anime, the early 2000s, into even the 90s, and so on and so forth. But that's what they would have done. They would have taken the character and actually have her make some type of connection with it. And again, you could have done this super easily. Just make her meet Iron Man one time as a kid. You know, there's that kid that Iron Man saved in Iron Man 2, in that final climax scene, the one who's wearing the Iron Man helmet. Of course, people claim later on it was Peter Parker, young Peter Parker within the MCU. But all you have to do is make a similar scene to that with Iron Man to Riri Williams when she was really young, to make her idolize this hero, to be a massive fan of these heroes, so she will move on and, of course, want to emulate this hero in some shape or way or form. Having some actual, what's the word I'm looking for? Some actual respect for the hero, some actual reverence for the character that you're trying to succeed is incredibly important in trying to succeed them, especially when you're talking about a character like Tony Stark, who is so well loved by the public. You're going to want someone to succeed him who actually loves him as much as the audience, the public, love him. So yes, first thing first, anime would have done is given her actual connection to Tony Stark in some way, shape, or form. The second part about that's really a problem with her character, a problem with her overall situation, is her design. This is very clear with the overall way that she comes off. I mentioned this in my War Machine video. I mentioned this in another video in the past. She has nothing unique about her suit, nothing unique about her character and the way that she fights, the way she does things that make her stand out from being like Iron Man. If you really look at her suit, she could literally just be an Iron Man copy. Iron Man could have made her suit easily. That's the thing. What you have to do is add something new to the successor character. I talked about this in my video talking about Sam Wilson. Sam Wilson did that something new, but you still need to make sure this new thing is still a punchy type power that really suits a main character and allows you to make fight scenes and action scenes revolving around this power much easier. For example, Captain America has the shield, he has super soldier strength and so on and so forth. You can easily make climaxes built around that, versus Sam having wings. It's a lot harder to do. Meanwhile, what you can do for Riri Williams is give her something new. I mentioned this in one of my other videos way back when in the past, and what I mentioned in that video was that all you had to do is really give her something like, I don't know, punching. Make her whole suit based around punching. Maybe she doesn't have the arc reactor. And thus, because she doesn't have the arc reactor, because she, again, was someone who kind of built her thing in the garage, for so to speak, her main force, her main way she could take people down was actually through just punching them, to be honest with you. Fighting them with her bare hands, essentially, in this iron suit. She couldn't waste power without an arc reactor shooting out blasts. She just didn't have that power to waste. So thus, hand-to-hand combat. And again, you have to put this in her character entirely. You would make her, maybe her father, I talked about that in that video, is like a former boxer or something like that can really push her forward to make her truly a character of her own. Make sure that she fights differently than Iron Man does. Maybe she's far more athletic. She's far more moving. When you look at the way that she fights in her Iron Man suit, and the way her Iron Man suit is even created in the first place, it's built for movement. It's built to move around, to flip around, to dodge, to strike back. All that stuff is built into her suit from the very beginning. You can still keep that type of reddish, I would have these claims, in my opinion, I think it should be more pink, but that's just my opinion on it. It should have her own color scheme, kind of separated from Tony Stark. That's the overall point. I think that going the red and version they did is not the greatest thing, but regardless, you want some type of color scheme that's different than Tony Stark's. You want her to look different than Tony Stark. You want her to act different than Tony Stark. You want her to be her own thing, her own character, paying homage to Tony Stark. That's what you really want the bottom line of it to be. So if you do all those things right there, I think that's what anime would have done. Anime would have given her own power that's really different to them. They may have even given her an actual superpower and then make her attempt to be like Tony Stark in a different way. That could have been super interesting as well, for her to be a character that maybe is just like a technopath who can just control technology and thus attempts to be like Tony Stark. That could be really cool, of course, but if you really have to do this just smart girl and sim type of thing situation they want to go with, you can still make that easily a character that could definitely connect to Tony Stark and that people can at least accept more as a successor. Now, that's what anime would have done. Anime would have done that for her. They would have given her that new ability. They would have made her so her suit was different. They would have given her her own specificity. And you see this with anime characters all the time. They'll bring up a whole new team of guys who all have a similar dress, a similarity to the way they dress and move, but each of them will have something small, it's unique about them. Whether it be the way and it will affect the way they fight, it will affect the way that they move, it will affect everything about them. Even if it's something as simple as just a different hair color, different hairstyle, they'll do something to make sure this character looks, feels, and acts unique, so that when that character pops up on screen, you can say, ah, that's that guy, and not some random person. They do a really good job of this for the most part. I think, again, anime would have done a far better job of giving her her own uniqueness so that she doesn't get confused constantly for a Tony Stark copy or Tony Stark ripoff, Temu Tony Stark, so to speak. Now, the final element that anime would have added to this character to truly fix the character and make it far better, an element that is so important that with this element alone, even if you don't do the other two things, you would still have a much more unique and interesting character. And that final element is the ethos, or the motivations of why the character does what she does. Of course, her being a fan of Tony Stark is important in of itself, I think. It actually does provide a bit of ethos in of itself, but it doesn't really explain why she got off her butt and decided to go into the world being a superhero. That requires a certain amount of something that happened within your backstory, something that happened within your life that caused you to do that. I don't think this normal people just want to go up and be a superhero, but specifically because, typically speaking, you see this really well inside of Spider-Man, not just No Way Home, but Spider-Man No Way Home, Spider-Man Far From Home, even Spider-Man Brand New Day. Being a superhero is not fun. You have to drop everything you're doing and save people at any given moment. It's actually incredibly disruptive to your life, and it requires a significant amount of commitment, a significant amount of drive to do it in the first place. And as a result, what you're going to expect is something to happen within the character's backstory that explains why they stopped being a regular person and became a superhero. Now, within the Riri Williams, the actual show Ironheart, within that type of idea, the MCU, they didn't really give that reason whatsoever for the most part. Her reasoning, of course, is more villainous than heroic. She just needs money, and she goes out with her suit and basically steals things from people trying to get money, which again is not heroic at all. It makes her much less likable in every single way. It's not that you can take that character and make better things from it, but it still makes her a horrific successor to Iron Man in any way, shape, or form, especially since Iron Man at this time, unfortunately, is already dead, and thus it's not like he can come and, stop her during her crimes, take her in as a pseudo sidekick, and, bring her to the light side. It's not like she can do that. So she has to do that on her own for the most part. And as a result, making that choice just really stupid. And I think a lot of anime, shonen anime specifically, would have realized that. Instead, the ethos that anime would have given her is far different than that. It would have given her an ethos more connected to her backstory with her father, the idea of her stepfather specifically. Although I think it would have been better to make it her father. Regardless, the idea that he got killed in a drive-by shooting is a really not a great idea, but it's a solid idea. It's a solid standing to make her want to be a superhero after that. I don't know why you have to do anything further than that. Just make that happen. Maybe move that up in the timeline a little bit instead of happening when she's like a little child. Make it happen when she's a bit older. Make it be her Uncle Ben situation. That's why Uncle Ben is still iconic to this day. Make that happen. Make that force her to throw herself into her work and become a superhero. It's literally just that simple, and try to stop crime in her area significantly. Maybe that situation the person who shot her father on that drive-by is part of a larger gang that she's to take down. There's the start of a show, or at the very least a mini issue comic that can really set that character forward. It's something that can actually give her something to stand upon. Maybe people actually start liking the character beforehand. Now, of course, I mentioned this in my War Machine video, and I'll mention it again here. I do think the idea that she later on runs into War Machine and War Machine takes her under his wing would be a good idea, because that gives her even deeper connection to Iron Man in the future, which makes her more and more of an someone who's connected to Iron Man pretty deeply. I mean, you look at someone like Miles Morales. He's connected to Peter Parker because Peter Parker took him under his wing briefly, and thus now he's connected to the character for now and forever. That's how that kind of works. So War Machine in this case would be the similar character to bring Ironheart under his wing, and thus she can become a superhero from there. I think, again, this is super easy. Again, anime really got this character done right in a snap. They would have had this character up and running. She would have been the next big thing. She would have had her, multiple issues of her, comic, or in their case, manga. It would have been going for her. Their anime about her would have been really great. And again, I don't think it's that easy to do. At least not that hard to do, is what I meant to say, because the character choice they made, whatever you want to say motivated those choices, they just weren't right for a character that's going to succeed Iron Man, or going to succeed anyone to begin with, but even worse, wanting to succeed Iron Man. But that's just my thoughts on it. What are your guys' thoughts on it? Like, subscribe for the content, do all that YouTube jazz. Do you think this is a good way to use the character of Ironheart? Do you think there's a better way to make the character of Ironheart? Do you think anime would have done it differently than this? Or do you think anime would have never made a character like this at all? Again, leave all those comments down below. Like the video, hype the video up, all that different YouTube jazz. And I'll see you guys in the video. Until then, stay vigilant and ferocious, Knights of Brimstone.